Okay, let's go. So thank you, Zepi, Max, and Muradif for coming in for this AMA about your project Blank. Usually, what we do is like a small presentation of the team, the project, and then if you have like some visual to share or like you can post them in the thread, and people are gonna ask question. I'm gonna read those, so people listening to the AMA afterwards, like everything is recorded, they can have the question too, and here we go. So, who would like to start?
Amazing. I'll happily go first. Thank you, first of all, so much for having us, Saturn Boy. And yeah, love to, thank you so much for everyone for jumping on board. Love to speak to the community today and just like introduce you guys a bit to what we're doing, because we do think it's quite different and unique in the space. And like it would be really good to get you introduced to it. So yeah, my name's Epi, and yeah, I've been in the space for a while now. Kind of joined last year, like most people in the space nowadays, and kind of early on last year. But I really got involved seriously, I guess, with the space, or like tried to get more like very deep into it when I guess towards the end of October or so, October November time, and that's when I started like working with a couple of different servers and. I came up as an alpha analyst in the space. Really like did a lot of alpha for different groups and communities. I had a huge focus on creating sort of visual reports and graphics, and then that created a lot of kind of demand and gave me some traction within the space. I started working with like lots and lots of different groups. One of the first groups actually we worked in, I see Crypto Wall Street in the chat. That was actually Dreamland Genesis was one of the first few groups that we worked together there with Crypto Wall Street, who is a good friend of mine. And yeah, we went from there, started building out the alpha section for lots of different communities and servers. And from there, I kind of transitioned over into project advisory and started doing a lot of kind of project advisory work for different groups. I mean, when you kind of go from analyzing a project to also being able to say whether a project you can see the signs of when a project's going to do well and a project is going to do badly, so you can help projects tailor that obviously and kind of move towards kind of building projects that actually appeal to the market and appeal to the people within it. So yeah, that's how I kind of got my start in the space, and now I kind of work advising lots of different projects. I work on kind of a couple of my own projects, and one of them is Blank, where I'm kind of one of the co-founders along with Max and Murad. And I kind of handle the utility aspect and the kind of the messaging side of things in terms of how we kind of like display it to the world, as well as sort of like bringing that kind of the connections and the experience that I have in this space and putting that forward. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you, Lepi. Hi, guys. Yeah, my name is Max. It's kind of the same story with Zepi, going into this space last year. Also did my own analysis, and that's how I jumped the wagon into KCG and started advising them. And then, I started to do a lot of learning and kind of getting in touch with all the project founders and all the influencers in this space, and learned a lot from them and started doing my own thing. But before then, I worked in a crypto hedge fund for some time. Met a lot of the big boys from different big funds and learned really why crypto is the next big thing, and that's how I really jumped into this space. And I one day, I kind of came up with the idea of Blank. Then I was like, nah, I need a big team to push this idea forward. Then got the co-founders, the CTO and the COO, Zepi and Morad. We built this together from scratch, and Morad is a technical genius at the back end that made all this possible. So yeah, I'll let him take the floor.
Wow, what a transition. Yeah, so I guess if Zepi here is helping mostly direct us towards good utility and successful projects, and Max here kind of pours out ideas and concepts that we can leverage to make things fun. I guess I am the one who tries to think of an implementation, because so we try to always not think of what tools we have and what can we do with them, but more what do we want to do and how do we make it, because there's always a way to make it, and if Some things have to be handled more on-chain, more off-chain, half-half, but there's always going to be a way to do what we want. So yeah, mostly I like to tingle with things and try to hack around, see if things are possible, and when they're possible, I think that's fun, so I want to show it around. And that's kind of how Max brought me into this project, because he had this idea that we didn't know at first how possible it would be, so I thought, okay, let's try. And now just adding on a bunch of new ideas that are, I think, truly going to bring something new into this space. Which, yeah, by the way, I didn't introduce that, but so yeah, I'm Morad from Morocco. I discovered the cryptocurrency in 2011 and started coding in Solidity in 2016.
Nice.
And yeah, so
You're a dinosaur in this space, like 2016.
and it was like at the beginning of smart contracts. But it immediately really attracted my attention, because just the possibility of running software on a blockchain, on a decentralized community of miners, and make that public forever. That's just truly amazed me from the start. And I'm excited to see how far this is going, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, we're still super early, even though like seems like ages we've been here, but in my opinion, yeah, we need still the mass to adopt it. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
all right, so thanks for this introduction. Now we can move like into the project. Blank, what is it exactly?
Max maybe will be the best to introduce it.
Okay, throwing the baton to me. Okay, so blank at first, it was just an idea, right? It was an idea to see if it was implementable, to see if a empty canvas can actually be drawn on OpenSea. It was a very simple idea that was tested out, but through time and through trial and error, we managed to not only be able to draw, and we started off with a really small canvas. We started off with a 24 by 24, tested out all the integrations, all the mechanics, to see if it's possible. It worked splendidly. We got the testnet working, everything working on OpenSea. It was like our front-end dev, whose name is Pierre. He is not here today, but he's very talented at making the front end truly like very easy to operate. And we basically chose this idea to open it up a little bit to a 64 by 64 canvas, so that every user can interact with it directly on OpenSea, and also other marketplace platforms that enables this kind of NFT. The reason I say that is that some of them does not integrate interactivity because they don't support it, and there's nothing we can do until they give the go ahead and they implement the ability to do that. But OpenSea is the one that is 100% doable, and we played around with it, and we opened it up to the 64 by 64. And the reason that we did this is so that it can have a really smooth transition into our second gen collection, which is a smaller canvas, but a much bigger supply, in order to make a gamified environment for people to interact with in a 4K kind of pixelated map. Okay. And I will go into more detail with this a little bit, but I would like to just get the core concept of this project and the beating heart of it at the very beginning. We came up with this idea. I transitioned into something a lot bigger. We have talked to a lot of big heads in this space, and to my surprise, they're very bullish, and the things that they're able to say and they're able to help and advise on this project is absolutely phenomenal. A lot of the big people, including iCrazy Teddy, that was a really successful YouTuber that have 15 million on YouTube. He couldn't wait to jump on this, jump on board and help us out. And we're always growing. We're always looking for new talents, always looking for passionate people in order to bring this project to the next level. And and this is is a forever growing canvas. You know, we have a blank canvas. Yeah, you can interact, you can play around. Everyone here.
I just want to answer to Rock and Stones. That's exactly it. You got it, and it's really the kind of idea we're heading towards in the Gen 2.
So just let me read the question, so the guys, for the recording. So the question was like, did you guys enjoy Reddit place on Reddit a few weeks ago, like with the war concept?
Yeah.
And then,
So
Reddit place is actually came out in 2017, and it's very funny because I had a very similar idea at the same period. I had talked about it to a friend. And at a hackathon 1 year later, I won my first blockchain hackathon. It was organized by Hedera Hashgraph. And my project was a cube where people could go draw pixels. And it was the same idea. And there was a viewer and people drawing and like buying pixels as space, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, basically the initial idea really came from $1 Million Billboard. Is that the name? I can never.
The $1 Million page.
It's called the $1 Million homepage.
Yeah. That one. Yeah. So then where was I? I completely lost track of.
You said where the initial idea was coming from.
Oh yeah. So yeah, the initial idea just came from being a really interactive canvas, a white canvas that you can draw however you want, and then it evolved into a canvas that you can actually use 16.6 million different kind of colors to it, and then it evolved into a gamified environment that we can actually play around with when the second gen launches, you know. And this whole ecosystem is a very foundation to for us to build a reputation and for us to be like, okay, look, this is what we said we're going to do, and this is what we will deliver. But you know, a blank canvas for you is also a blank canvas for us. We have in the next coming week, we will release what is our canvas and what is your canvas. So what we will build and in the back end and what you will be able to draw in the front end. And everything will interact very, very closely together. We'll grow in this space together. We'll build a trust. We'll build a reputation together. And this is where, you know, I really think I want to take the really initial idea of a blank canvas to the bigger picture of a blank ecosystem.
Yes, like still, as you say, still scratching the surface, and we're in the early stage. And for this original edition, like the OGs, like how many canvas do you plan to do and to generate?
So the original the supply will be 400. Okay, this is I stress this, you know, it's an initial supply, and then the gamification that comes with the Gen 2, which is a 12.8K supply of 32x32 canvases, and this is for a very specific reason, right? We're doing this so we can make up a 3840 by 3840 pixelated gamified map.
Okay.
And when this comes into play, our initial Genesis supply will change, and this evolution between the second gen and the interaction with the first gen is where the gamification and the tokenomics really comes into play. And yeah, I'll let Zeppy talk a little bit more about the token and the person that was more interested in like onboarding and how we're going to make this happen.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Max. Yeah, no, I mean, so as Max was already touching on, we have quite a few different aspects that we want to that we want to sort of touch on with this. First and foremost, like just to take a step back, blank at the end, like what we had in mind with blank was that it was going to be this kind of, for us, a blank canvas of innovation and experimentation and things for us to try. But when we sat down to try to define our core values and our core pillars, they always came around the idea of innovation, creativity, and expression. Mm-hmm. Right, and those were for us the most important aspects of blank. And so when we tried to build, the utility around it and the sort of where it was going to go, we always tried to kind of maintain that vision and always have that vision as a kind of a guiding light, as a guiding principle for us to follow. So as people are kind of like alluded to and as we've mentioned, there's a couple of aspects to the canvas. First of all, it's an interactive canvas on OpenSea. It means that you can capture the ideas right there at like the I like to say kind of at the apex of kind of creativity, where you're like and inspiration, because you're just kind of scrolling through other other NFTs, having a look, and then we wanted to reduce that barrier of entry, that friction, like you don't have to download a program, you don't have to even go on a separate website that you're not familiar with. The point of capture and where you can capture that creativity is right there, where I guess the heart of the NFT world is right now, which is on OpenSea, which is where basically it's like the bazaar of NFTs, the biggest marketplace where everyone is trading and selling their NFTs. So that was one thing that we were like really passionate about nailing. And it was like, and so when we were like thinking about the interaction, like you go on our website right now, blankstudio.art. Like I said, that canvas right now is basically what you would get as the canvas on OpenSea.
Yeah, and while you're talking, I'm just like drawing stuff on it. So,
yeah. Everyone I show the website to is like, the pictures always go sideways because they're like, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was too busy drawing, like getting every single time. But one of the things that's really cool about that is that you can just, we had to kind of think about ways that you can essentially create a canvas that lives on OpenSea, and also like it feels good to use. So you're very limited by the space, of course. We can't like put all the tools on the side or things like that. So that's why we had to like hide them away by pressing K, so that you can bring up the cool tools. You can bring up the color picker, the color, the color interaction, the bucket, and all of the other options. But you can also then submit your art on OpenSea, and you can submit your art along with your ETH wallet address as well. And that submission goes straight to basically goes straight to the canvas owner. What the canvas owner will be able to do, they're almost like a landlord. It's not land. We're not going to call it land because there's a couple of implications.
He owns the canvas, and then
but the people who own the canvas are essentially like, I mean, I guess an analogy for it is like it's a very stretched analogy, but imagine you're like the shopkeep of like a corner store in New York, and it's like you pull the gutter down at night, and then you come the next morning and some kids have drawn some graffiti on it. And you have to choose whether to clean it or to leave it, etc. That's kind of like how you interact with Blank as well. You're kind of like that shopkeep who's like looking at the gutter every morning and on the grating and or on the wall, and you can go on our DApp, and you'll be able to see all the submissions that have been made on your canvas, on all of the canvases that you own, and have a look through them, which is really cool. Now, that's the first bit of it. You can actually then choose to say, hey, I really like one of those submissions. I'm going to set it as my permanent submission. I'm going to set that as the canvas. So the canvas stops being editable and instead becomes that submission. That becomes the art piece. The NFT itself becomes the art piece that was submitted. Of course, the canvas owner can submit their own piece of art if they don't like any of the submitted ones, and can decide to have theirs, obviously use theirs instead as well, of course. And then the NFT from there on out in the collection would be sold. It would stop being a canvas and it would instead be sold as that art piece. Now, the first question that I always get, and the first question that I had when we were thinking about this to myself as well, was why would anyone want to do that? Why would people want to take away, the ability to edit a canvas and almost basically reduce its utility, so to speak? Because we're in such a utility-driven mindset these days of like, hey, what's this utility of the canvas? So it was a really interesting thing about. We want to encourage create. And by the way, there was a similar project that did try to do this with generative AI art as well, called the Da Vinci Pass a while ago, and they actually ended up doing really badly because there was no incentive to set an art piece and to burn. Basically, you would be getting rid of your pass you'd be getting rid of your pass in order to change it into a piece of generative AI art forever, and then someone would have to buy that generative piece of AI art. And when it came out, people were like, "Oh, that's so cool!" They started typing in like Gary V and then other like seed phrases in order to generate some art and then like send it over to Gary V in order to try to get his attention, and Pokemon or whatever. Like they were just doing some random stuff, but it never really took off because there was like the novelty wore off very quickly of just like setting your art. Two things with that. people didn't have a direct input into what they were creating. They weren't truly submitting art with the DaVinci Pass. So they weren't truly able to express themselves. It was a machine taking in a few seed phrases and taking in a seed picture from your wallet and then generating the art for you. We're trying to do something different, where the art, like when you go to our Blank community, when you go to our Discord, like some of the submissions, and maybe Max or Murad, if you could share them while I'm talking, it would be great. In the Blank channel there, like some of the submissions that we get, like some absolutely talented artists. Obviously, we know like what people can do in this space with pixel art as well. Like, you know, it's kind of incredible what they can do. And one of the things that we've been trying to do is find ways to encourage that creativity and to encourage the expression of that creativity. So that was the challenge that I really wanted to sink my teeth into, and that's kind of what I came in and kind of started designing the game theory that would be involved with these canvases. So let me put it this way: when you have a canvas, the level of interaction that you have with it is pretty much what you see now on the website. When you choose to set a piece of art and it gets sold as an art piece instead of a canvas, it unlocks a much bigger world of interaction with that canvas, so to speak. And I don't want to go into it in too much detail, but in order to interact with the wider ecosystem, you will be encouraged to interact with the wider ecosystem. You will have to set the canvas and you can keep your canvas as is. If you're really happy with just a blank canvas and you just enjoy that aspect, right? You want to send it to your friends, for instance, and go, hey guys, I'm going to run, like, I don't know, or even just like tweet it out on Twitter and be like, hey, I'm going to run like an art contest on my canvas, like submit, like, you know, and you can then go through those submissions and their ETH address. Hey, 0.1 to the lucky, to the person that I choose or whatever. Like, you could do all of those things with it just as a blank canvas. And I think that would be really cool. But if you then you could go, winner gets the art piece set on my canvas, right? So this is when we started talking, like when we started talking with like influencers, and we started talking with product founders, and we tried to sort of explore like all the different ways that the canvas could be used potentially. But what I was saying about like making this canvas more useful, counterintuitively, so to speak, more useful by setting it and making it static. That's where I was like, okay, how do you do that? And let's just say that there will be some elements to it, which again, I don't want to go into too much, but you will be incentivized to set the art piece from kind of a very standard kind of NFT approach, with like, you know, some standard NFT mechanics that you might expect in terms of kind of like reward procedures and things like that, and kind of like mechanic incentivization, and then from there, it opens up a wider ecosystem for you to interact with some other elements of that canvas and be able to do other things with the canvases. And almost the canvas will evolve, so to speak. Again, that's basically as much as I can say on that part, but the canvas will actively evolve. So that's
when you're saying this, like what I have in mind right now, it's like maybe like the OG collection, they will all be like put together to be sold as like a biggest canvas.
Atom Boy's got some ideas. It's good. So yeah, no, it's where I'll leave it, and I'll let your imagination run wild with what's possible. But this is exactly what I want with Blank as well. Like when we came in, it was like it is a blank canvas, and that in its own right is so powerful to me, because you can do so much with it. You can have, like, there is so much potential, and there is just so much to explore with it that we don't even know the bounds of. We don't want to confine it to the bounds of our creativity. We want to we want to let it be as open as is possible, as is possible, and let it be defined by the community, and let its direction be defined. And this is the other great thing of working with like talents like Murad and Pierre, who are like the devs on this team, is like, and this is why we all came on as co-founders, because we're not going to look at this as something where we're like, yeah, we'll build the initial utility as we expect it, and then stop there. We have the plans of what we want to do for phase 1, but phase 2 and phase 3 and phase 4, we're structuring them out in a way of like, we have the roadmap like built out at the moment, and along the entire path, we're looking at it and going, there is so much more that we can do all the time. And when you hear Murad speak, especially, like, I mean, I'm going to make the guy plush in just a second, but he's the sort of developer where you're like, hey, is this possible? And he's just like, anything's possible. If you can think about it, it's just like, it's not, is it possible? It's just like, when do you want to implement it by? Like, we'll do it, right? And it's just like, is the sort of person that he is, and it's like the sort of approach that we take as a team is just like, what can we build that is just absolutely like is going to blow people away and is going to keep making this as fun as possible to interact with, but also, you know, introducing some really interesting game theory, which I'll talk about in just a bit, on the larger scale, because people will mention like Reddit places and mention like the $1 million homepage. I'll go into just a second as to like the game theory that we have involved there. And we actually started talking to Wolf, who's a pretty well known tokenomics advisor in the space. You know, he advises Tokoa's project Few World, he advises Conjura, he did the tokenomics for Disto Apes, he used to work on Habibis in the past. So he's worked on a lot of big projects in the space. We showed him this project. I had a chat with him about like what it could be done, and then we got into a call, and then just sort of like, and then just kind of like showed him the idea, and he was like, okay, there is literally, and I quote word for word, there is no way I'm not getting involved in this project. I need to be in this project. How can I get involved? And so it was like, just he could see the absolute potential of where we're going with this, and where this is going to end up, and where the areas that it could go to that we can't even foresee right now. So yeah, and so they're really, really happy that to bring him on board as well to help us with the whole tokenomics and the whole game theory design of this as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like as you said, you have idea, but like during the way, might like some people from the community might have other idea, and then just like it's a moving canvas, like living canvas.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so. I don't know how much we want to say, but yeah, so some things are obviously still being decided about how things are going to be. I'm also reacting to Rock and Stone's questions. Where will this be stored? So I had an original idea of making drawings actually 16 by 16 and monochrome, and that would be completely stored on chain as a single uint 256, but it was really ugly. So we went for a bit of a higher definition and the true depth for 24-bit colors. It's just a bad idea to store that on chain. I know some projects store more than that on chain. So sometimes you can do cool stuff with SVG, but here it's really pixel art. So not on chain. It's probably going to be IPFS or even maybe a server if we depends. So when art is stored on a server, it just means you have to trust the people to not lose that server.
Yep.
It also allows for much bigger, what's the word? It's just so much easier to make it updatable. There's no transaction fees whenever you want to do something. And so, yeah, if we go with the implementation that once it's fixed, it's forever, then definitely IPFS would make a lot of sense. But there are still things being decided, like will there be, I don't know, anyways. So, yeah, I don't say so much, but...
Careful with your word, huh?
He knows I'm in the call, and like people always like, I always get a bad rep apparently for holding people back during AMAs, but like I've seen what expectation management does in this space, and like
the less you say, but if you like over delivers, the better. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd much rather sit down and just show the cool stuff and keep our mouth shut, basically. But yeah, at the same time, it's like, yeah, this has kind of always been the approach. That's also why we didn't, when we launched this project, we didn't talk about it at all until we had the canvas and the technology ready, because we needed to make sure that it was ready. It wasn't a pie in the sky idea, but instead it actually works, and that's the important bit.
Yeah. I want to answer because they all seem a bit technical. So I mean, if anyone else wants to answer the 5 questions by Rock and Stone. So the second question, besides the initial mint, the other actions that will trigger on-chain transactions are submitting the art. So it will submit a transaction even though the art might not be on-chain, just because it will create an entry that the holder of the token can consult and can choose. So that would be a transaction, and choosing which drawing is going to be shown is also going to be a transaction. ERC721, it's going to be ERC721 just because each canvas is unique, and you can't have different metadata for different token IDs in 1155. Okay. Basically, 1155 is quite fungible token. I don't even think it deserves the non-fungible token call, but just because token 1 there can be 5 of it, and these 5 are fungible in the purest definition of what fungible means. About price and whitelist, I will let the others talk. I'm just a tech guy.
Just tech guys underselling Murad, if I've ever done such an underselling. But yeah, no. I think that's a sort of a good way to kind of and I guess I could segue onto, if people are interested, I could segue into the wider, the blank map idea of, you know, this idea of like what the combination of these canvases will do and what that will look like. But do we want to go through any other questions before that, or any other kind of points, Atom Boy?
I mean, here it's pretty clear. Like, you answer most of the question I had prepared. I think you have like the pitch already, like nice settled down, like with all those EMA. So for me, it's like quite clear. Except like the secret plant you have for us in the future that you're not allowed to talk about. And I'm checking the channel.
Yeah, there's definitely a few things that we can talk about, especially in terms of like sort of our larger roadmap and sort of like what we want to do with that. I'm just sort of double checking because, you know, there's a couple of things that I wanted to kind of go through. Let me just bring up some of my other notes quickly. But the sort of the high level of blank is, and what Max was saying about, we have this idea of our canvas, and then we have this idea of your canvas. Now, your canvas is all the technology that we're going to put into the canvas itself and how the canvas is going to evolve and all of those things. Our canvas is the idea of like what blank as a studio will build. What are we going to be doing? And so there's this huge aspect to this kind of, again, remember that our pillars are built on creativity being one of them, and this expression of creativity. And as part of that, we wanted to partner with some really talented artists, not just in the space, but in general, to like outside of the Web3 space as well, and see what we could kind of do together, and see what we could do together for the community. And one of the really interesting things, I mean, I've been part of a lot of pitches in the space, especially talking to artists from the Web2 scene and things like that, trying to get them onto projects desperately because we had like the utility for the project, but we just had no art. So we were like trying to pitch to these artists, be like, yeah, this is what, like, and literally it starts with like, this is what an NFT is, and this is what a blockchain is. And it's like, and it starts from these basics and kind of like, and really try to like get them into the concept of NFTs. And most of the time the artists wouldn't understand it. They're like, yeah, well, why don't I just like draw it and put it on Etsy, or draw it or do this or do. But the really interesting thing about blank is that when I pitch it to people, like when I pitch it to artists, and when Max pitches it to artists, like their mind is blown immediately. They understand it. They're like, oh, why? Yeah, because because like when you speak to them and you go, yeah, so here's the idea. This canvas is like they will be able to draw on it. The NFT itself will allow people to submit, anyone in the world to submit art on it, right, with no barriers. They're like, oh, so in like and they immediately understand it, and they go, that's really cool. I didn't know. And like for those who knew NFTs a little bit, would go, I didn't know NFTs could be interactive, right? So that's the thing that they are really surprised by. But for those who don't even know NFTs, go, oh, so it's like true decentralization. And I'm like, exactly. Like a blank is actually decentralized art in the truest sense, because you're not gatekeeping who's going to be able to, like, you don't need to gatekeep who can draw in it, who can't. You can crowdsource creativity. You can crowdsource it. And that's a really, really cool aspect. So when we show that to artists, they're like, that's awesome. Can we like have that in our community? And that's what we're building with the original blanks. So our Genesis collection is made up of 400 64 by 64 canvases. And then we will have the larger Gen 2 collection that's made up of 12,800 32 by 32 canvases. And I'll talk about those numbers in just a second, because Max already alluded to it earlier. But our original blanks, being just 400 of them for that Genesis collection, the idea with those is that we're trying to essentially build a community of a kind of initial. Like a lot of them are made up of like the ones that the people that we're approaching for it right now, and the people who are getting very, very interested, initially were very interested, were project founders in the space and influencers in the space who saw the potential of it and said, do you know what we could do with this? We could actually give this to our community as an extra sort of tool to play around with. It was like buying them an NFT world or buying them a generative dungeon, but just, you know, with a much easier entry price, because we're not trying to be an NFT world, right? Yep. So the cool thing that we can do is actually we can limit the submissions that go into the canvas based on that we don't need to. But if a project founder turned around to us and said, so for instance, Ollie from Zooverse is one of the original blanks, and if he turned around to us and said, for like, I want to be able to display the creativity of the Zooverse Genesis holders. How can I do that? We go, we can do that for you, no problem. What we'll do is we can essentially, you give us the contract that you want to whitelist the addresses into, the addresses that are allowed to submit, and only people holding a Zooverse Genesis in there, or Zooverse Gen 2 when it launches or whatever, only people holding a Zooverse NFT will be able to submit. So he can run art contests for his community. Yeah, exactly, with ease. And like, let's say we do the same thing for Syndicate, so that you'll be able to run an art contest for your community with ease. And going beyond that, what if we created and this is one of those things that I don't want to go into too much, but just to this is an alpha group. I need to give you some alpha to some extent. So the idea can be to actually create a portfolio of all of the collection, and this is not something that we're committed to right now, but we're trying to build out right now and seeing the feasibility of it. And maybe Murad, if you'd love to talk about that more, and we could also go into a little bit detail or not. But the idea will be that, well, the canvas itself can actually become a showcase of a community's talent, so to speak. And these original blanks are taking us the center stage of our overall map. So whatever their submissions are, maybe even as the simplest way, we say hey, whoever is wins the contest gets their art set as the submission from whoever from the community, and that is a way to kind of showcase that talent. But we're also trying to find ways to showcase the entire community's talent to the world, so that you can go through to the Zooverse original blank NFT and essentially view it as a catalog of submissions of all the talent that's that's submitted onto there.
Yeah, quite amazing.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and so that's kind of one of the approaches that we're taking with the original blanks. And the original blanks are not just project founders and influencers, but and comprised of them in a large part. But one of the things that we also want to do is we want to create a very strong central community that we can start building around. That's why we are putting a lot of focus into our original blank collection, which is minting in a couple of weeks' time. And obviously the whitelist for that are super scarce. Then we have the whitelist for the Gen 2. The cool thing is that we've already basically built tech for both Gen 1 and the Gen 2. And for us, it's can we get the community to a place that we're happy with before launching the Gen 2? But what we want to do is we want to first start providing a lot of value to our Genesis holders. And we're going to do that in a few different ways that can kind of talk about a little bit. But one of the core bits is, these Genesis community, these original blanks, these are the 64x club, or the original blanks club, or whatever you want to call them, is those are our 464 by 64 canvases. It's going to be a whitelist only mint, of course. It's handpicked at the moment, and they're going to have a unique owner experience, which I kind of already alluded to. So it's going to be a very community, because the majority of them are comprised of community owners. It's going to be a very community focused type experience on their canvases potentially. And then going from there, we are also trying to provide them with some value kind of within that allows them to kind of leverage that network of being part of the original blanks. And that's one thing that we're sort of exploring and building out at the moment. The additional thing that we're doing is we have some really talented alpha. So obviously my background being as an alpha analyst, and even Max, even though he paper-handed Azuki, believe it or not, is an alpha, was an alpha analyst as well back in the day. And so, and that's how he made his start as well in this area.
But
so with
profit is profit.
Profit is profit, right? Even if it's at 3 ETH, it's fine. But one of the things that we are really passionate about is providing that sort of. For me, I want to redefine alpha in this space, because I feel like it gets a bad rep. And I feel it's these random, Atom Boy, we were talking about this just earlier, right? When we joined the call, it's just these random degen pumps that people are playing into, and barely any education, with barely any foresight. So that's one of the projects that I've come on board to try to, one of the projects that I'm founding that I'm really passionate about is another project called Unfiltered. And it's something that we're really, really passionate about doing, is actually the education angle. and really trying to educate people in the space. So we're not building an alpha group. We're trying to build something very, very different from that. And we're trying to partner with very, very specific communities at the moment. And obviously, me being kind of like on both of the teams, and knowing that Max also shares my vision on this, the vision of quality analysis and quality education around alpha and analysis. We partnered with Blank to be one of the first few servers that we provide our analysis to. Okay. And we essentially pipe it through. So, and we even have some in-house analysts in Blank already, also providing alpha. So we try to handpick and create like a really good kind of like. I try to really build something what I would call an alpha culture. An alpha culture is really easy to do in an alpha group because that's what everyone is there for. An alpha culture in like a community that isn't focused around alpha is really hard because people are not primarily there for that, and so if they don't know how to interact with it, they don't know how, like, what the benefit is, they don't know how to, like, they don't start talking about it, they don't talk about like the latest stuff that's happening in the market and things like that.
No,
and
there's just following calls.
Exactly that. They're just following calls. So there's no that back and forth communication and interaction, which I think is just so important to learning. It's an incredibly important aspect to learning, is the community aspect. Like, it cannot be undervalued and it cannot be underrated. So that's one of the things that we're building in Blank, is like trying to kind of create the alpha culture as well at the moment. And we have some really talented, like, we're producing a lot of reports and really talented analysts that are working with us, and obviously partnered with the Unfiltered feed, which is piping straight through into Blank. Mm-hmm. And also providing all of the analysis there. And then
I saw it's like, it's going to be like analysis, news. You're going to do podcasts on those. You're right.
That's right. Yeah. So we've got education content, podcast, and daily news reports, and a mix of content. We're really trying to be for Unfiltered, at least, we're really trying to be a content hub that can sort of partner and share that information with select servers that are really interested in that as well.
All right. Yeah, I think this is the most like important part is space right now. It's like educating people and building together, like have a nice foundation to allow like the mass and all the other people to join us in this trip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me check if there is any other question.
I just wanted to.
There's one. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to react earlier when Zeppi was talking about people would leverage blank canvases for their community, and right before that, a bit before that, you said, Atom Boy, something interesting. Like, is this going to be later all joined into one big canvas? Again, this is. I mean, I allow myself to brainstorm with you guys, so I'm just gonna throw ideas here. I was thinking something more like people would buy 4 of them to make a big square, because 64 by 64 isn't big enough. And once there's a big cool drawing on 128, then each canvas is a parcel of that drawing. And I think overall with this idea, it's more going to attract collectors who are going to own a bunch of them, rather than it being disseminated across a large number of holders. Although, I don't know, this is like me kind of speculating on how this could go. Yeah. So, yeah, just as a reaction to the idea that Zeppi threw about community holding. And yeah, so I'm guessing like one community could hold like a big square of 16 by 16, and they would display and showcase the art of their community on these little squares, or maybe make one big drawing. Anyways, that's
yeah, we could do like a big mask, guys. Like, I think we could draw like I did a kind of a 101 mask for the syndicate. Tell me what you think about it. I think it could be super nice to.
Yeah, you could like
that is
over 2 by 3, so 3 pixels high and 2 pixels, 2 canvases wide and 3 canvases high, and yeah, it could be like one big drawing.
That's cool. We had a question. Will you guys maybe do a collab with famous artists in the space for Special 101? Because I can see a market for it for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So the entire sort of artist, we're trying not to go too deep into the sort of the artist collaborations, but we already have signed up artists onto the project with Blank who are going to come on board and essentially offer their art to the community, because it can speaks to that core value of that we have kind of around creativity and spreading and expressing that creativity. And so we wanted to partner with artists to create one-of-ones. We also had these ideas, like this actually came. We were discussing this massively in the Nifty Nugget AMA a few days ago, about the idea that we can have artists essentially come on board to draw, or essentially run these competitions where they say, hey, these are the 10 canvases, like a really famous artist in the space comes on and says, here are the 10 canvases that I submitted on. Try to guess which one is my submissions, and they send the IDs for those 10 canvases or something. And that way you have the chance. Because the other thing about like setting your art piece is like, if your friend drew on something and you really like the look of it, you'll set it probably potentially. But there's a really interesting aspect to, would you set it if one of the most famous artists like from the space like came on board and like just started like drawing on your canvas is the resale value of that of that canvas might change dramatically based on that submission.
Imagine Banksy just drawing on my canvas.
Exactly. So yeah.
No, there's this is a potential. A project with a lot of potential. I think so. Really interesting concept. You're bringing a lot of new stuff into the space, and I have no more question. Everything was clear in my head and so far for me. So guys, like the agents, someone want to come up on stage or ask question, or feel free to. I think we're gonna do last call for the questions. On final question: is your Discord airtight?
Great question. So we have obviously talented developers who are already looking into the Discord permissions and everything. We have one of the most renowned, I would say. The thing with Discord Discord auditors in this space is that they do a lot of the work in the background, but we have someone who has a huge amount of experience. He's audited Discords that are 200, 300,000 big, and they've never gone through a hack before. We try to work with like some of the most trusted people in the space. And so yes, the Discord is as airtight as can be, and of course we always try to like I'm going to jinx it, aren't I? One of you is going to try and break it. But what I was going to say is for us that side of things is really, really important. So we're really, really tight on that security. We're really tight on the security of our smart contract, the security of our Discord, the security of our roles, permissions, webhooks, and the Discord bots that come in. We don't partner with Discord bots unless we audit their code as well. Other than the big ones like V6 and things like that. But other than any other kind of custom bot that we bring in, we audit the code for that as well, just to make sure. So yeah, we try our best.
Yeah, don't click links, guys. Best way.
That's what it comes down to, really, doesn't it? Don't click.
And that joke, as a tradition here, when we finish an AMA, we have that joke coming into the stage, but you can't talk right now, so I'm gonna just read the joke for you. What happens when the two artists enter the art contest? It ended a draw.
Oh no.
This is our
I love how he's literally called dad jokes. I really appreciate that. I mean, dad jokes, I feel like you should be a part of the utility in every single server at the end of an AMA.
He is. He's doing just that joke in all the server he is.
That's actually amazing. I feel like that joke in its own right deserves a whitelist, Max.
Yeah, he has a lot of whitelists. Yeah.
Amazing.
Alright, I don't see any other questions. So once again, thank you for joining us and presenting this awesome project.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Yeah, I really, really appreciate it, and I hope that people are interested in interacting with what we kind of I hope that we managed to kind of bring our vision across, and that people kind of empathize with it and really resonate with it. And please come hang out in the Blank Discord. Come and submit your art. We're like looking at all of the submissions. There's some really, really talented people like doing some really, really crazy stuff. But you do not need to be an artist to be part of the Blank community. Like at the end of the day, it's like, I mean, trust me, none of us up here are artists.
Yeah.
Like I suck at drawing. Max sucks even more somehow. And I mean, for Murad, the code is the art for him. So
Yeah. I mean, while we're doing like this AMA, this is what I did. I mean, I'm gonna finish it because I'm like kind of OCD stuff, but yeah, I was just like doing pixel by pixels.
wow, I love that so much. That's so cool. That requires a lot of patience.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I do too when I do pixel art. I'm more into geometry than
Yeah,
art.
me too. Like when I'm in Minecraft and those stuff, yeah, geometric everywhere. This is
Yeah.
need to be pixel perfect.
So
maybe after, you know what we can do? We can run a contest of these kind of like geometry centered ones and do like we animate it. We copy exactly what Ponzi Rug did.
Yeah.
Love it.
My boy.
Oh yeah, maybe the last question. I see like the join the waitlist on the website. Like, what's the like? And you said you handpicked people. Like, what's the process behind it?
Yeah, so people basically the way to get whitelisted, other than like getting it handed out during an AMA or something, it would be to submit your art on the website, and all of the art that you draw right now and you hit submit, that goes directly to our backend. We go through the submissions, and yeah, we kind of pick them from there. But you can also submit them directly into the Discord. So that's the whitelist process.
Also, what we do is that every single submission is also recorded. And also every single submission goes into our Discord, so are moderated. And the other thing is that we have given a lot of whitelists to people that have done really good alpha calls. And there's some really talented just community members doing alpha calls. And it was quite interesting to see. Although we're very small, we have a really close Discord. There's some really talented analysts that provide alpha, that provide guidance like 24/7. So I do appreciate them. And we do give them a lot of credit and whitelist positions as well.
Okay, nice. That joke wants to come. I think he has a joke, a last one for you, live.
Go for it.
Hello.
Hey.
How you doing, my sons? Glad to be here. So last one. Why you should always avoid sketch artists?
Why?
Because they are shady.
Oh.
Because there's what?
Because they are shady.
Oh yeah.
Fuck's sake.
You got me on the double. I thought you were going to go for the sketchy, and then I was like, oh no, you got me on the shady.
It's the same as why you should never trust trees, because they're shady.
And yeah,
I can't deal with this. This is another
It's
level.
okay. You guys are like my fingers. I can always count on you.
No.
Hold on. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, I
You're
was
not
gonna
the
say.
first guys who are speechless. It's fine.
If you fit in a 64 by 64 QR code, then you can definitely submit that jokes. Yeah.
I try my best.
So much effort. What is this, Brad?
yeah.
Go for
But as a like tip in this space, never scan QR code, guys.
Indeed, very much so. But yeah, also just 100%, guys, stay safe. And these days, it's been freaking rough with everything that's been going on. But yeah, just make sure to stay safe. And I mean, when you've got this level of entertainment, you don't even need to click on any other links. Like you've just got dad jokes right here, and you can see
Exactly.
it's perfect. It's perfect.
And always watch out for stairs, because they're always up to something.
Okay, I'm gonna move you back to the audience, dude.
See, this is how you get server muted, guys. Speedrun.
This is exactly how you guys are muted.
I just
Amazing.
moved it.
Thank you so much.
But yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Dad.
you for the AMA. We're gonna end that on those dad jokes.
That was really
And
cool.
Agent, if you have question, like make sure to join like Blank Discord and submit your art, and you'll get a chance to get a whitelist there.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And yeah, thanks so much for your time and for sticking around. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you in the server.
Yep.
Amazing.
Thank you,
Take
guys.
care, everyone.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.